is Team JIGYASA IAS. We started a new series called From the Scratch. In the last video, I covered I covered the syllabus and where do you cover it from. Okay, in this particular video, what I would like to do is that I would go into each and every section, explain you in detail what the syllabus exactly is, so that you will be more familiarized with the syllabus. Okay, that's the whole purpose of the series called From the Scratch. So let's jump in and see what exactly the syllabus is telling us. Okay, so in this particular section, current events of national and international importance, everyday happenings in the nation and globally, locally and globally, would be the ingredient for this particular section. So international importance would be something happening with the international bodies, or it can be political change, or two countries coming together with a memorandum of understanding, or any agreements between the nations, changes happening in World Bank, IMF, things like this would be covered in international importance. And when you come to the national importance, the government would have released a new scheme for unorganized sector, or for the farmers or something, or things like that, or they would have come up with a new project for environment, for a better environment, or Supreme Court has appointed a new judge, or there is a change in political system in the country, or they came up with an they change the provisions of certain states. All these things cover in general the current events of national and international importance, which you have to cover for 12 months, okay, prior to the exam. Okay, so these are the sources. In the other video, I've told you what to cover, where to cover, and all that. Okay, now let's go to the next section, which is history of India and Indian national movement. So basically, if you take the history, ancient, medieval, modern, okay, freedom movement, art and culture. So these are the sections in general. Ancient would be like prehistoric, Stone Age to be precise, Stone Age to Rashtrakutas would be called as ancient. See, these are the distinctions that keeps changing. These are perspectives only from people to people. So in a broad sense, this is what is ancient. Okay, it will cover Vedic age, it will cover Guptas, it will cover Ashoka, it will cover things like that, from Stone Age to Rashtrakutas. And then medieval India from Rashtrakutas. So from Gauri coming, Ghazni coming into India, okay, till early Mughals would be medieval India. And modern India would cover the later Mughals, the Marathas, and advent of Europeans into India. All these things come up in modern India. The freedom struggle as such, as when from the starting of Indian National Congress to Gandhi coming back to India, and our freedom struggle, like Quit India movement, then Chauri Chaura incident, all these things in general cover up the Indian freedom struggle. Then art and culture, from all these things, it can be from stupas, it can be literature, it can be sculptures, it can be festivals. All these things cover up in art and culture. Okay, see, art from ancient India, art from medieval India, art from modern India, all these things come up, part of art and culture from ancient India, medieval India, modern India, all these things come up. During freedom struggle also, we have certain arts and culture that got evolved. All these things sum up in art and culture. Okay, so this is what is the broader sense of the history of India and Indian national movement as such. Okay, then just go to Indian geography. So in Indian geography, as the syllabus mentioned, see, first thing is physical geography. What is physical geography? It has all the mountains, it has rivers, and it has the plates, it has what happens with the plates, and things like that. Anything that has to do with the physical features of the earth mountains, rivers, oceans, then sun, planets, gravity, all these things come up in physical geography. And when you come to the social geography, what do you have in social geography? Human settlements, the migration, population, all the tribes, all these things are covered in social geography. When you come to the economic geography, obviously we have minerals, we have resources. In resources you have renewable and non-renewable, and all these things come up in economic geography. These three sections should be covered with respect to India and with respect to the world. So this is what is India and world geography, and in the other video I've covered from where to read and what to read. Okay, so let's go into the next section, Indian polity. Okay, in this section, Indian polity and governance, basically it has constitution. Constitution is basically all the rules and regulations what India has to follow as such. So it has everything in detail from fundamental rights, it has everything in detail from what is India from here to all the things that are required for a country to run. Everything is mentioned in the constitution: how to amend the constitution, how the parliament should work, how the president should be, what are the powers they have. Everything is covered in the constitution. And it has things to do with political system. What is political system? Like, how is the government formed, who makes the government, and how the parliament works, what is the interaction the government and parliament is going to have, or what who is president, who is vice president, who makes the council of ministers. All these things related to run the country, all these things related to the government is political system. And Panchayati Raj is local self government. When did it start? Who gave advice to start it? Which committees came into picture to give rise to Panchayati Raj? Which article started which constitutional amendment gave rise to the Panchayati Raj? All these things are covered in Panchayati Raj. Panchayati Raj is basically local self government, how people are organizing themselves. Then public policy. Policy is related to the public in general, like women policy or kids policy or formals policy. All these things come up in public policy. Then comes the right issues. Right issues are what rights do we have, and all these things. Like, if you're a divyangan, you should have ramps in all the public buildings and transport and all that. So all these things sum up in right issues and all that. So I've covered in the other video from where you have to cover the particular section from. Okay, then comes the economic and social development. In this particular section, economic and social development, the syllabus that is mentioned is sustainable development, poverty, inclusion, demographics, social sector initiatives and all that. In general, economic and social development covers GDP, then money market, capital market, then external trade, international bodies related to economy, like IMF, World Bank, and all these things are part of economic and social development. Sustainable development means we use what we want and we pass on the surplus resources to the next generation. It is sustainable development. And poverty, how we are tackling poverty, what is poverty, definition of poverty. Inclusion, how are we including all the sections of society into the economic development as such, and issues related to the inclusion, all these things. Then demographics are something related to populations and all that. Then social sector initiatives are initiatives that like Stand Up India or Startup India, Make in India. All these things come up in social sector initiatives. We give exclusive schemes to initiatives to the border areas. We give exclusive initiatives for particular state and all that. So all these things come up in economic and social development. We have public policy, we have taxes and all that. Everything comes up in economic and social development. I've told you from where you have to read and what exactly is important in this particular section. Okay, then let's go to environment and ecology. So basically it does not need any It does not require any subject specialization as such, but there are few things that you have to learn, everything that you need. I mean, see, environment has so many species in it, how they are gonna interact, and how the energy is transferred between you know from uh, from one tropic level to other tropic level. What is a tropic level? Everything is covered in environment and ecology. And when it comes to biodiversity, is what are the species that we have, then what is the status of the species? Is it going to be extinct? What are the initiatives that you're going to take to save the species? We have Project Tiger to save the tiger from extinction. So all these things come on biodiversity. When you come to climate change, we have international bodies which are tackling climate change. What is climate change? Then you know what are the funds, what are the initiatives that governments are taking, or all these things come up in the climate change, or why certain change in climate is happening, what is the geographical phenomena behind it. All these things come up in climate change, and what effects you're gonna have, what effects in near future, or in a short run or a long run, what are the effects of this climate change. All these things come up in this particular section. So to sum up, we have environment, we have environment, biodiversity, environment and ecology, biodiversity, climate change. Environment and ecology is basically the nature that we are going to talk about, like what happens in the nature, how do you interact, how does the energy transform in the nature, what is a food web, what is a food chain. All these things come up in environment and ecology. What is a niche? Everything comes in environment and ecology. When you come to biodiversity, in general we talk about species, national parks, then sanctuaries. All these things come up in biodiversity, how we are going to save the species and all that. Climate change is related to what exactly is happening to our climate, why is the temperature rising, what are the bodies related to climate change, what are the funds related to climate change, what are the initiatives related to the climate change. This is a very important part in this particular section. So these are the things. Okay, let's go to the next section. General science. General science does not require much of elaboration. It's very basic physics, chemistry and biology, and no much questions are asked in civil services exam as such. So just get a grip of one of these compilations and just skim through, fine. And that is it for the video. So repeat our mantra, let's crack it. And that's it for this video. In the next video I'm gonna elaborate on main syllabus. Okay, signing off, take care.